Hey, y'all, give me 2 seconds. I'm just finishing up, quickly eating some lunch. Hold on. All right, there we go. Can y'all hear me okay? All right. I'm going to try giving my presentation, just putting it up on screen one more time, just for reference, if anyone has questions, and then happy to chat, hear more about you, or see if there's anything I can do to help talk about the program. Let's see if this will actually work this time. All right, let me know. Can you see my screen okay? Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, again, thanks for coming by. Again, my name is Helena Krusec. I'm the Deputy Engagement Lead here at AFWERX with AFWERX. Happy to answer any questions you might have about our program, or maybe if y'all want to introduce yourselves, we can just let the conversation go organically from there.
Yeah, I'll start. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, well, I'm Carol Joyner, and I'm from AFWERX, and we're located in Alabama in Huntsville. We are a 2-time SBIR sitter phase 1, and then we're now currently on a sitter phase 2. And that's really kind of where my questions are, as far as really the, if it seems like there's no more phase 2Bs or sequentials, they're more TAC-FI, STRAT-FI. And I've listened to quite a few webinars, AMA sessions, and I really still feel like I've got questions, so would love to know what the next communication vehicle is, so that we're putting things in on time and those opportunities.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for being a part of this program. Always love to hear about founders actively participating and reaching out and trying to figure out the next thing, because there's lots of ways that you can go with this. So I don't know explicitly the details of your award. As mentioned, there is obviously that going from phase 1 to phase 2 for existing awards, that is an option. I think you mentioned the sequential as well. So sequential phase 2s are still a part of the program. They are at the behest of the previous phase 1 awardees, though. They will come out with their own separate timeline. It's not on the repeatable schedule that we've been working towards. So in terms of sequential, you will have to defer to the actual program managers for your cohort. We are working on shifting in the future towards this open topic annual cycle. And the goal of this is to create a little bit more predictability for you, for the small businesses, as well as the airmen and guardians who are looking at this program as a means to field new pieces of technology, so they can better anticipate when to start looking into the portfolio of options to consider bringing on new programs. So of course, pending reauthorization when this happens, that there's, always these things are tentatively set to change, just because the program office, funding differs sometimes, but tentatively we're looking to shift to this quarterly cycle, so that you have a little bit more predictability of when to anticipate to see those solicitations coming out. In terms of next steps, it might help to learn a little bit more about the specifics of your award. That for those who aren't familiar with this, basically the goal of the phase 2 program, at least if you haven't done this before, this might be helpful. The whole purpose of phase 2 is to work on this prototype to make sure that it is tailored to a point where it is considered ready, essentially, for phase 3 transition by an Air Force government customer. People come to us looking for additional funding through mechanisms like the STRAT-FI and TAC-FI programs. Think of those as phase 2B supplemental funding. It's really additional money that happens in 2 different buckets. TAC-FI represents that sort of smaller bucket, anywhere up to, with matched funding, it's actually up to about $3 million. And then STRAT-FI, TAC-FI can go up to, in theory, up to $30 or $60 million, depending on the fundamentals of the types of fund matching that you're able to get. But basically, that's only available to phase 2 awardees. And again, the purpose is to help make sure that your prototype is actually transitioned successfully into phase 3. So it might be helpful to understand where you stand stand in terms of your period of performance? What was the end state of working with your MOU signers for your phase 2? That might help provide some additional detail.
Yeah, so we are currently in the middle of the phase 2, about 6 months in, and we won't end until the following, I believe it's June of 2023. So I think where we would be interested in is we have gotten a good amount accomplished and will in our phase 2. But in order to really, we feel like to benefit the entire Air Force, then having additional funds, that kind of that bridge, that in between would probably be ideal. We could use some more time and more development.
Sure. So I don't have information today on where StratFi TACFi intends to fit into this annual cycle. I know the goal going forward is to figure out how we can build some predictability of their cadence into this as well. I don't know what that is today. We started with the open topic because there is that more regular availability of funds, and we're actually working to build specific topic up to that same type of cadence, so you have that really good predictability. StratFi TACFi is not there yet. We're working to figure out how we build it into that, but just know that once that does become available, we will be advertising it. It's also a really good opportunity for you to reach back to your own PMs. So not just the PM for your phase 2 cohort, but also your customer and end user, because the ultimate goal of all of this is still phase 3 transition. And at the end of the day, while phase 1 and phase 2 all leverage DAF SBIR funding, right? This is all 3,400 and 3,600 colored funds coming through our budget. Those end users, those customers aren't paying a dime of their own funding. In order to qualify for StratFi TACFi and ultimately to transition, they have to have identified their own funding. So we are working on putting together resources to help those customers, those folks at the program office level and other organizations, if they don't have funding identified, trying to figure out how we can work with them in that PPBE, which is basically the acquisitions planning cycle, help them to figure out how it might be easier to free up funding for this type of thing, because inherently it's a difficult process, right? For someone who hasn't done the legwork to earmark funds for potential phase 3, it can take 2 years sometimes at a minimum to even create the authority to put money towards something. So if the program office you're working with hasn't already set aside those funds, you can start running into those roadblocks. And that's where that big program, or the valley of death for these programs, that's where the first hit happens, because there has to be that actual, there has to be that budget creation basically on the part of your customer and end user to do that. So we are working internally as AFWERX as a team to help figure out how we create these resources or help provide best practices to the customers and end users to help them figure this out. But essentially at the end of the day, it's on them to either come to the table with matching funds for the next StratFi TACFi cycle, or to have their own budget for phase 3. And the beauty of phase 3 is that even though we call SBIR phase 3 SBIR, it's not actually SBIR funding. It's whatever contract funding they are able to provide, and actually almost any contract vehicle within limits, obviously, to go forth and do that contracting. It's just a de-risking process that makes it easier for them. So I would go talk to your customer and end user and see if they either have identified funding at their program office level, or alternatively, perhaps the MatchCom that they sit under has their own, war chest of funds that they might be able to tap into for some sort of joint project. I have seen that happen where a technology is so valuable to an end user and customer where they say, this is great, we need to get in more stakeholders to see if we can combine funds at a PEO or a MatchCom level to try to acquire this thing. And sometimes they can have luck doing it that way. There's other options as well. If you want to go back with other SBIR awards and transfer it over to different offices, you can do that. It's a little bit more complex, but there's a lot of different ways forward, just sort of depending on what your customer and end user wants to do. And unfortunately, DAF SBIR funding ends at phase 2, right? For StratFi TACFi, there is a component of that SBIR funding in it, but really we're looking at the customer and end user or commercial sector to come in and commit money to help finalize that prototype. And that's what helps get it over that hump.
And is that StratFi, TACFi, is that just a once a year?
So we don't know yet. In the
Okay.
past, it has been roughly annual, but it will change depending on the availability of funds and a variety of other factors. So once we have more information and we can figure out how that slots into this recurring schedule, we'll definitely let you know. But that is something that we ourselves are also trying to slot into it. I will let you know, even just figuring out the open topic annual cycle, getting approval for this was a fight in itself. So going for something like Strat by TACFi and putting it into here with much bigger buckets of money is going to be an even bigger fight. So it might take longer, but please know we're working on it. And definitely encourage you to reach back out to your customers and end users. And also if they have questions about funds, or if they, are trying to get creative on contracting, have them reach out to us. I'll put our contact info in the chat here. Looks like this will go to everyone. Hold on. Oh, everyone. Okay. engagements@afwerx.af.mil. So send us a note if your customers and end users are truly hitting a wall and they're having trouble figuring this out. We do have a previously recorded phase 3 webinar up on our website. That's sort of the how-tos of contracting. And actually, I'll put it right here so you can see it. Are y'all seeing this one on my screen right now? Phase 3, the ultimate success story. Okay. So if you ask them to go through here, this gets into a lot of the nitty gritty of the actual requirements for contracting. If they're having trouble figuring this out and meeting some of the legal justifications, this is a great place to start. And we also have experts on our team who are willing to help work with people. And I'm also part of a Tiger team that's working on going out to the different MatchComs to help them think through things like this. So I don't have a great answer for you today, but just know the more communicative and in step you are with your customer and end user, the better likely you are to get to this space. And then we also are working on putting out other webinars in the future for other things like, FedRAMP and getting to ATO, right? Things like that, and those other sort of prohibitively expensive certifications and, backers that show you as being, better capable of getting into those spaces. We're working on creating mechanisms and tool sets to help improve that process as well, which will also hopefully improve your likelihood of getting to that space. So don't have a great, concrete, straightforward answer for you, but I'm hoping this helps. And
It has. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. I'm glad it was helpful. Sorry for the rambling. Any other questions?
Hey, we've applied, sorry, it's Liz at Agile Biodetection and Leverett, one of my co-owners. We've applied for NSF, and I know they have the pre-app that you sort of have to do apply in order to be able to apply. Do y'all have something similar that we need to do?
So we're working on trying to revamp how we present some of that information, because some of the fundamentals of getting registered with the DSIP stuff, it can be kind of confusing. But there are, I think it's included in here. Hold on, let me go back and look real quick. So basically you have to make sure all your registrations are correct. You need your cage codes, DUNS numbers. You need to basically have all the green lights on the DSIP system that says you are approved and ready to roll. That's basically the most important thing that you need to have in order to go forth and be considered an eligible company.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish I had a better answer for it. This is so DSIP, for those who don't know, that's the singular platform through which all entities submit applications for Department of Defense solicitations. We're really strictly limited in how we can and cannot change that, because it's a singular entity, right? So we put our solicitations in there for people to respond to, but we're limited in how we can change that form factor, right? So I recognize it is not a light lift, particularly for someone who's never done it before. It can be very daunting in the legalese, and it can be a lot and sort of confusing. So we are trying to work to help improve those start guides for how to better get set up for success. Go check out AFWERX.com. If you go look at the AF Ventures page, we do have previously recorded webinars talking through some of this stuff. but the old ones might have already been scrubbed in anticipation of us putting the new ones up in coming weeks. So go check those out. If it's not there, stay tuned for our weekly webinar series. And I think, let me go to the, yes. So if you go to this hyperlink right here, that weekly webinar series, we hold them weekly on Thursdays. That's going to be your wealth of information for how to figure out the basics for stuff like this. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I think there was someone else who was trying to talk. I saw someone's mouth moving, but they were not, I could not hear them. So floor is back open to anyone else who has any other questions. Quan, I think you're trying to talk. I don't think we can hear you. Can anyone else hear him? No. Let's see. You might need to back out and come back in. If you go back to the main room, see if they can hear you there and then try to come back in. Sometimes Zoom glitches like that and has issues. Sorry about that. All right, while we're waiting on that, anyone else have any questions?
Is there any like hot topics that y'all are wanting to address in the open area? Like, is there a way to actually see what the guardians or the guardian and airmen are actually requesting or saying is an issue?
Sure. Yeah. So let me
Is there a forum? I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, spots that we can go, hey, our tech could potentially address this.
Yes. So short answer is yes. Real quick before I jump over to a different screen, I'll show you this one. This is sort of a high level overview of places where we have put our funding historically, which really just shows that we're basically putting the funding where the private investment community is. There's, this big 45% overlap going to those top 5 funding sectors, and then pulled this information out of the biotech community. There's roughly $60 million of investments that we've done there. This is an old graphic, so the updated one, it's actually more than that. It's closer to 120 million. And some larger companies have gotten into that phase 3 space. But if you are interested in looking at other things that we might be interested in, can you see my browser? Can you see this page, AFWERX.com? Okay, so on here, if you go up to AFWERX and then open topic, you'll see this little button pop out that says focus areas. And this has been
too easy.
Fraught with issues. I recognize that we've had a lot of issues here updating and making this appear correctly, just because we've had lots of back end issues. But what this is, for those who don't know, this is a laundry list of stuff that we ask our airmen and guardians to go out and tell us what they think they're interested in buying. And it goes into this space.
That is pretty cool.
What's great about it is that you can look to see if someone has actually submitted something that aligns with something you're interested in. Or alternatively, you can also take this as a null indicator that we're not even thinking about something you can provide, or we're thinking about a problem in the incorrect way. Right. So what you can do, what's beautiful about the open topic is that you can submit virtually anything. It's that open door, right? And we actually just finished our most recent evaluation sprint for the 22.4D cycle. We saw tons and tons of applications for things that either looked something like something that's in this focus areas database or nothing like it, right? And we bring in different evaluators from across the Department of the Air Force ecosystem. And by DAF, I mean airmen and guardians, so both Air Force and Space Force, to come evaluate these things and tell us about whether or not it would be of value to them, that defense need, as well as looking at things like the commercial viability of the company and the technical merit, right? So we have seen a variety of things come in the door that don't necessarily even look like what is listed here. The other thing you can do is also, whenever it goes live, I believe, let's see if this is updated yet. We're working on updating this page, so it might not be up yet. We're coming up, it's not done yet. All right, so we're coming up on a specific topic solicitation period where we've gotten a huge number of requirements defined solicitation opportunities that have really laser focused use cases. And what's great about those is that, again, you don't have to go out and do all the legwork to find a customer and an end user. It's already built into the requirements development process. So when those go live, they'll be available on DSIP. And I think, don't quote me on it, but I think we've got at least 50 different areas that are coming out. So it's going to be a huge opportunity. And when I was saying earlier that open topic and specific topic are two sides of the same coin, if you're looking at the number of awards that we've made for open topic here, open topic and specific topic now have the same percentage of our funding. So we're looking to award out a lot of different awards for specific topic. We just had some features on the webinar last week, actually talking about the different varieties of this, right? Because what's unique is that the actual, the requirements developers that write those specific topics, they're the ones who are deciding how many awards they want to field, how many of those are going to be phase 1, phase 2, how it slots in. And it's also great because usually there's a component of phase 3 funds already identified and ready to help you with that transition process. So it's really great because it eases a lot of that customer discovery that's required for the open topic. In theory, as long as you're meeting the needs set forth by those requirements developers, it's a lot less work on the customer discovery part. And then you also run into that where we were talking about with AFWERX, right? If you're thinking about how to get past phase 2, right, into like a phase 2B or a phase 3, you're incumbent on that customer and end user finding the money, right? Because they've been using our funds previously. Totally not the case with specific topics. Specific topic has the funding already laid out, same way as open topic. But then when it comes to phase 3, they in theory have already done the legwork to carve out the budget and the funding to help with that transition process. So definitely go check out DSIP once that next cycle opens up here. I think it's probably imminently within the next couple months. Go check those out, and we will also continue to feature those and talk about them on the weekly webinar if you want to learn more.
So those should be 23.1s.
I think so. I don't know off the top of my head. It will come out here as soon as it goes live. It'll say what that is. There have been some issues just in the past because Office of the Secretary of Defense canceled one of the previous solicitation cycles at the OSD level. So we had to take some of those and absorb them into our own off-cycle cadence. So I don't know the numbering of what it will be, but like that, yes, something like that.
Another, like I said, we've submitted NSF and haven't submitted anywhere else. So is there a limit to the number of applications per cycle
That you can respond to or that come out?
Correct.
Yeah.
NSF only has one.
I don't think so. I mean, so if there are, the guidance will come out with the next cycle. They will say, obviously, when the guidance comes out with DSIP, whether or not they're changing any of the mechanics of that. In general, I don't believe that there are any limitations on how many solicitations you can submit, but you are only able to win one of them. So if in some case you are selected for multiple, especially if there's similar work, you will only be awarded one. So if say you apply for a phase 1, right, a phase 1 as well as a direct to phase 2, and they're both selected, they're going to come back to you and say you can only do one. You're good to do the phase 2 or something similar. I have seen in the past other folks have won concurrent phase 1s for different types of work, but you best believe that we're going to be checking in with you to make sure that you've got differentiation and that there's no duplication of effort, because legal is not going to like if you are doing that and they're going to come knocking down your door. So as long as you are doing the due diligence to make sure that there is substantial differentiation and making sure that you're just not reduplicating and trying to go for the same funding for the same types of awards, we'll see it. First of all, we'll find it, we'll know about it. But it also shows that you guys are doing the legwork to be honest and do the right thing and work with us appropriately to help make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's also the reason I was asking is like, if we put an open topic in and then of course, specific topic comes out next month and we're ideal for that. I didn't know if we would have to choose between those two or
if we can go ahead and submit to both and see which, if either gets selected.
That's a good question, actually. I can imagine you are welcome to submit. to as many as you want. And, you know, obviously each one is going to be dependent on, you know, when it goes to contracting, that's when your official, you know, period of performance starts, right? So things can happen in that process, right? It could happen where they talk to you and you say, we'd rather do this than that. Or, you know, someone else from the specific topic might come to you and say, hey, this is something that makes sense along with our priorities in this direction. And then they might pull you that way. But just know that at the end of the day, contracting sees all, and they will do their best to help make sure that you are either not in a position where you have to make that uncomfortable decision, or they're communicating with you to say, you know, hey, we're interested in working with you, but we recognize this as being duplicative, and then they'll talk to you about that.
And then, so sorry, I asked a ton of questions.
That's okay.
I'm trying to remember which agency it was, but we missed the deadline for getting into the funding round, but they offered subcontracts at a later phase to help support some of the things they've already funded. So do y'all do the same thing?
So,
so for example, we have a ton of 3D printers, and
uh-huh.
somebody said, hey, we need some 3D printed. They put it out solicitation through the funding they've already received.
Sure. So I think the answer is kind of it's always a choose your own adventure in terms of both your inputs as well as the customer and end user you're interested in working with, right? So if you miss a window, right, and you are no longer able to be considered for that solicitation, if you've already done the legwork to talk to the customer and end user and they're sufficiently interested in what you are doing, there's other types of contract dollars out there, right? It does not have to explicitly go through SBIR. There's a whole variety of different colors of money, right? That's how they refer to it. There's different types, and you know all this, right? So it's just the different customers have access to their own different buckets of funding. And if they're interested in working with you, go talk to them. They might be able to refer you to someone either as, you know, suggesting, you know, potentially working with as a subcontractor for something else. Or if they're really, really interested and there's a direct funding path to it, they might work with you to, you know, think of something potentially not down the SBIR sitter track. So all hope is not lost, but the biggest piece of advice I can give you is just be really communicative with the people who are interested in working with you. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be their money that helps get you to phase 3. And if they're not bought in and aware of all their options, you know, there's not a lot that we can do because SBIR can only go so far with phase 1, phase 2, and phase 2B.
Cool.
So I hope that helps. I know that's
no, that's
a very straightforward answer, but hopefully it helps.
Yeah, when we first got started, we saw the deadlines and we missed deadlines, and we were like, okay, well, we'll have to wait 6 months or a year. We didn't realize, oh, we could be engaging with people, you know, because they had their own funding. So we're starting to learn all this stuff. That's why I'm asking these questions. I didn't know if there was any limitations.
So there's another one, and this is not a direct funding mechanism, but one that is helpful. Let me see if it's listed on our resources page. Hold on. There is a platform called Air Force Tech Connect. Have you seen that at all? Okay, hold on.
No, but we've done other Tech Connects before.
So it's a platform. And what this does, so if you go to this page, it's airforcetechconnect.org. There's a lot of different things loaded in here. So you have to kind of be careful about how you're navigating. But there is a location where you can submit technology ideas and submit it to different DAF users to look at and evaluate minus any concept of funding, right? And what that also does, it allows you to potentially connect with a potential Air Force end user and customer who can look at your technology and say, oh, we're outside of a solicitation cycle, but I already know you and I'm interested. I can engage with you beyond the confines of just the SBIR sitter solicitation period. So go check this out. This is owned and operated by AFRL at the higher level. So it's got a lot of different opportunities and resources. And I know lots of folks from across the DAF community plug into here and look at the different tech that gets submitted through this portal.
Great.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We've only got 4 more minutes. Anyone else with questions?
Yeah, I want to just briefly go back to the sequential phase 2s.
Sure.
Can you direct me? I got it on the phase 2Bs, you know, that's really now strike five, tac five, but the sequential phase 2s, is there anything that I can point for our end user to start that process?
So if you are in a current period of performance, you should be a part of a different, we use Union as the platform, but a cohort
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, I
So
am.
in there should be a designated PM for your community.
I
They
know who
will
that
be able
is.
to tell
Okay.
you- They'll be able to tell you about the sequentials if and when that is going to happen.
Okay, got
Because
it.
it's not in this, we call it an out of cycle essentially,
Okay.
because it's on a different time frame. So you can always connect your end user with them. They might be able to
Okay.
help in that direction. I know we're in a place right now with reauthorization coming up where lots of people have big question marks on their head and they're just trying to figure it out. So the best thing you can do is go directly to the PM who manages your cohort and see if they have an immediate next step identified, or if we are in a hold because of something related to reauthorization.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And for those interested, while we're just on the topic, whenever it does come back up, all of that StratFi, TACFi information will live here on this page. This banner will pop up and say it's open, and you'll be able to actually submit directly through here. There's also really good resources that they've worked to build out, that guidance documentation, submission templates, overall FAQ that talks, you know, generally about the cadence of this. But again, until we've got some of the stuff figured out with reauth, I can't tell you today when that timing will happen, unfortunately. Any other questions? Let me put this up. That might just be helpful for anyone that needs to poke around. I will also share these slides with the BioAlabama organizers so that you can look through them and click through at your own pace. There's a lot of different resources in here, but as we mentioned, there's those the focus areas that we talked about that lives here. You can also go to the AFWERX.com page to go look at our public facing portfolio, which is right here. It will show you, I believe, since 2018, since our inception, all of the companies that have won previous SBIR phase 1, phase 2 awards have gone through the process. They're all listed there. So you can also get a good idea of what has previously been funded. And you can also see some trends around different, different technology areas and potential customers that might be interested in working with you. So that's another really good resource as well.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I recognize that all of our organizations, do things differently. So I appreciate you asking the questions. And the great thing about the SBIR program